If you've ever felt like every argument about immigration is just two people talking past each other, there's a reason for that. It's because we aren't actually talking about just one system. We're talking about several machines running at the same time. And the thing is, they don't always pull in the same direction. Border security, asylum seekers, visas, deportations. Most people think these are part of one single machine. But in reality, they often operate more like separate systems running in parallel. And depending on which one you're looking at, you can come to completely different conclusions about whether immigration is working or failing. So before we talk about policy or solutions or even try to assign blame, we need to slow down and understand a simpler question. What is the immigration system made of today, and how does it function in practice? At a basic level, U.S. immigration tries to do three very simple things. Decide who can enter the country, decide who can stay long term, decide what happens when someone enters or stays without authorization. But those three goals are handled by different parts of the system. So instead of one coordinated structure, you get overlapping systems like legal immigration, visas, green cards, citizenship pathways, asylums and refugee processing, border enforcement, interior enforcement and removal proceedings, work authorization systems, and then, of course, the immigration courts. Think of it this way. It's like trying to run several different races on the same track at the same time, all with different starting guns and different finish lines. And the result is the system doesn't always move at the same speed across each part. And once you see that clearly, the next question isn't whether the system is working, it's what does it look like when it actually works in practice and where it doesn't. If the system is this fragmented, you might assume that nothing works. But that's not quite true, because before we can understand where the system breaks down, we first have to understand the parts that actually function as intended. Now, I know what you're thinking. If it is this messy, does anything actually work? And the answer might just surprise you. And here's the part that tends to get missed. It actually does work in some very real ways. Legal immigration, for example, still processes millions of people through structured categories every year: family, work, education, and humanitarian pathways. And many people do successfully navigate the system. Employees hire foreign workers legally. Families are reunited through visas. Students enter universities across the country. So it's not accurate to say that the system doesn't work at all. A more accurate way to say it might be, it works, but at best unevenly and often slowly. So the system does work in some important ways, but that doesn't mean that it's free from pressure. Before we keep going, let me just take a moment to say hi, welcome, pull up a seat at the coffee table, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and let's talk. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations like this, I'd appreciate it if you'd like the video, share it with someone who might enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel. And above everything else, leave comments, please. It's one of the last free things we have left. And it really does help the channel grow. And as always, you'll find a PDF of the policy we will be discussing in the description below. So where does the system start to struggle? The biggest strain is time. Cases that should take months can take years. Application, wait in line. Hearings, wait in line. And while the system is waiting, people's lives don't stop moving. The second challenge is capacity. The demands for visas, asylum claims, and enforcement actions often exceed what the system's ability to process them efficiently is. And when demand grows faster than capacity, delays start to spread throughout the entire system. But underneath both of those problems is something deeper: the structure itself. The immigration system wasn't built all at once. Different parts were created and crafted at different times, under different assumptions, and often for different purposes. So instead of one unified system moving in a single direction, you have multiple systems trying to operate side by side. And that's where the strain starts turning into something visible. You can see that strain in a few places. The asylum process is one example. Border processing capacity is another. And immigration courts often deal with backlogs that stretch timelines far beyond what most people would expect. But it's important to understand something. Breakdown doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it just looks like a delay. Sometimes it looks like inconsistencies. Sometimes, in our current system, two similar cases end in different timelines with different outcomes. So when people say the system is broken, they're often describing different symptoms of the same underlying pressures. Because once you understand the structure, something becomes clear. Most immigration debates are really debates about one of three things: how fast the system should work, who the system should prioritize, and how strictly the system should enforce its rules. But you can't adjust one of those without affecting the other. That's why immigration policy is so difficult to fix in a simple way. Everything is connected. And that's why understanding the system matters. Whether your biggest concern is border security, legal immigration, the economy, or simply whether the government is doing its job efficiently and effectively, you need to understand how the system functions. And so now we have a baseline understanding of what the system actually looks like today. But that raises a much bigger question. If so many parts of the system seem disconnected, if different parts operate under different priorities, and everyone agrees it's complicated, how did it end up this way in the first place? Well, that's where we're going to go next. This is not in Kansas anymore. I look forward to seeing you in the next video in 1 week. Goodbye for now.